ones. No? Sounded good to me.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you too.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. Today we are doing lesson 103. God being love is also happiness, in the correlating chapter text. Chapter 10, the idols of sickness. Section 3, the God of sickness. Shall we begin? Alex?
Section 3, the God of sickness. You have not attacked God, and you do love him. That sentence is so contradictory, I thought I had read it wrong. Let me read that again. You have not attacked God, and you do love him. Can you change your reality? No one can will to destroy himself. When you think you are attacking yourself, it is a sure sign that you hate what you think you are. And this, and only this, can be attacked by you. What you think you are can be very hateful, and what this strange image makes you do can be very destructive. Yet the destruction is no more real than the image, although those who make idols do worship them. The idols are nothing, but their worshippers are the Son of God in sickness. God would have them released from their sickness and return to his mind. He will not limit your power to help them, because he has given it to you. Do not be afraid of it, because it is your salvation.
Wow. Do you know what images were coming to mind?
What's that?
How when we were first starting out this course, both of us had people that we had placed as idols.
Yes.
As understanding, knowing, believing, whatever. And in placing them as idols, we were looking at them as being better than us in some way, and that we were less than. And that kind of mentality is destructive, because it constantly has you believing that you are lacking, that you are never good enough, because somebody else is always better than you are. And anytime you place someone up on that pedestal, folks, and you idolize them, you are telling yourself and telling the world that you believe you are lacking and that you are less than everyone else. And that is how you want to be treated, as if you are less than. Think about that. What you think yourself to be is what you project out there on the world. It is what your brothers will perceive of you and treat you such as. Think about that. If you think you are ugly, your brothers will perceive you as being so and treat you as so. It's funny. Yesterday evening, as we were walking, there were a couple of teenagers that ended up walking like right beside us for a few minutes. And the guy kept referring to this young lady who was not fat in any way, shape, or form. She actually had a very nice figure. And he kept referring to her as being fat. And I was appalled at that. Because this young lady was like 5'6" in height. So she wasn't exactly short. She's average height. And she was thin. And yet he kept telling her she was fat. And that she needed to lose weight. It was amazing.
Basically telling her there's something wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
Not accepting her for who she is.
And the entire time they were walking, she kept walking with her arms crossed and just like looking down, just keeping her arms crossed like she was protecting herself. She was feeling attacked, and you could sense that. She wasn't smiling. He was, but she wasn't. And it was interesting to watch that interaction, that byplay. And you could see that she was accepting what he was saying as being the truth. You could see her physical reactions in her face, in her body. How at first she went from walking with her hands down at her side to curling within to herself. And the more she was taking in what she was saying, the more she became constricted. She was destroying herself from within by believing what he was saying. This is what it's talking about, folks. These things that play in our minds within. Things that other people are saying to us, then they sit there playing in our minds, destroying us from within. Think about that. Every time you accept that judgment or opinion, or seek out that judgment or opinion, you are destroying yourself from within. Think about that. Please continue.
2. What comforter can there be for the sick children of God except his power through you? Remember that it does not matter where in the sonship he is accepted. He is always accepted for all. And when your mind receives him, the remembrance of him awakens throughout the sonship. Heal your brothers simply by accepting God for them. Your minds are not separate, and God has only one channel for healing because he has but one Son. God's remaining communication link with all his children joins them together and them to him. To be aware of this is to heal them, because it is the awareness that no one is separate, and so no one is sick.
Sorry, they just gave me the funniest freaking image. It was like a fiber optic link going from God to Holy Spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Holy Spirit is his one Son. And from Holy Spirit, it goes to all his other children or his grandchildren. And so it looks like this big spaghetti-style mop head going out to all these individuals. And there's this big fiber optic cord coming in the back of him. And it's like...
I see an image of like a Christmas tree, a fiber optic Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it looks like the points in his chest and
Yes.
It goes... and just everywhere. You're like, what? It had me cracking up, that image, because it looked like God just said, and this light beam comes out the center of his chest and just stabs Holy Spirit in the back and goes straight through him and goes,
Wow.
And it looks funny because everybody else is going like this, receiving that light beam to the chest. They're just, yes. It's like that joyful ecstasy, like on the bow of the Titanic, that, I'm flying.
Right. It's the release of the pain, the release of the
Yes,
darkness. When the
exactly.
truth comes, the light comes.
Exactly. That's
Yes.
exactly it. So they're just like, I'm here,
Right.
But just the way it just goes, it showed like this light beam just coming from the chest of God, just going whoosh, and it goes straight through Holy Spirit and goes like that and just prongs out like a grappling hook. And it goes whoosh.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's got like trillions of little fingers that fly out, because it's not just us here on this planet, all the different individual beings here, but it's everywhere. Throughout time, eternity, dimension, space, the universe, everywhere. It's touching all of them all at once. All of us. It's a phenomenal picture that I was being given there. It's like, wow. It's like the comicalness of how it looked, but yet understanding the analogy there. Like he was saying of that, the release of that pain is just like they're in heaven and in joy, and it's just everything's ecstasy. And they're just like arms out, spinning in joyful happiness. It's an amazing view of what it is I'm being shown in this moment. But that's the link that it's speaking of there, that we are all interconnected. We don't even realize it, but we are all connected with a cord like that connecting us to each other. And it's there, but we don't recognize it as being there. We think we've cut that cord, but we haven't. It's still there. And actually, folks, there's multiple cords. There can be like 2 to 3, maybe even more. I know I've seen at least 3 myself. When I have my out-of-body experience type things, I know I've seen at least 3. Please continue.
To believe that a son of God can be sick is to believe that part of God can suffer. Love cannot suffer because it cannot attack. The remembrance of love therefore brings invulnerability with it. Do not side with sickness in the presence of a son of God, even if he believes in it, for your acceptance of God in him acknowledges that the love of God he has forgotten. The love of God he has forgotten. Your recognition of him as part of God reminds him of the truth about himself, which he is denying. Would you strengthen his denial of God and thus lose sight of yourself? Or would you remind him of his wholeness and remember your Creator with him?
Exactly. Folks, every time I hear my brothers talk about having this disease or that disease, I share how I've been healed of all disease simply by going within and looking at the things I was believing about me, my brothers, in this world. The things that I had been taught to believe were true as defining me. And that I recognized that none of those things were true. And once I recognized that, those diseases disappeared because none of them were true either. They were simply my body's response to a belief I held in something that was not true. And so my body was trying to kill itself in defense of something I was trying to believe. And when I share like that, I'm not telling them that their disease that they're believing in is true or anything. I'm sharing how it's not true. Giving them an understanding that there might be a different way to go about healing whatever it is that they think they have. Please continue.
4. To believe a son of God is sick is to worship the same idol he does. God created love, not idolatry. All forms of idolatry are caricatures of creation, taught by sick minds, too divided to know that creation shares power and never usurps it.
Usurps it. Yeah, that word usurps, I had to learn how to say usurps because I would try to say upsurps.
Right, that's what I just said, upsurps. But, it's funny how in the moment, even in recording a video, when I find something that irritates me that comes up into my thoughts, I'll actually take a moment and look at it. And go, that irritates me, that triggers me, that she keeps correcting my pronunciation. And I actually make a mental note that, there's something that I must have a misperception on. And even in that moment, I was thinking, Holy Spirit, please correct my misperceptions. And it's funny how when you get into the practice of doing that, even in just a few seconds, you can look at the thoughts, look at the judgments, look at the irritations, and pray for the correction.
Exactly. Part of the reason why apparently I find myself correcting the pronunciations is, one, to help you with when they come up with understanding how to say it, but also because sometimes if it's said incorrectly, it gives it a different meaning.
Well, the understanding I have is the correcting that you do for my speech is the same correction you would do for your own speech. And so you are treating me no different than you treat yourself, which is really what this is all talking about, that the outside world is simply a projection of an inward condition. We treat others as we really treat ourselves. And to see how somebody feels about themselves, all you have to do is see how they feel about the people around them.
And there's nothing derogatory in anything that I'm doing.
I understand that. And that was the understanding that came to me in that moment that I prayed for the correction of my misperception, is that you're doing the same thing that you're just doing what you do. There's no, how can you judge how somebody treats themselves? That's just the way they do,
Yeah, you can recognize if they're holding a misperception in how they're treating themselves, like if they're judging themselves to be idiots or fat or something like that.
And that understanding also came up for me, that often while, especially when you're doing speaking, either public speaking or speaking live on the radio, that you're actually better off not correcting yourself while you're talking on the microphone, because more often than not, when you correct yourself, it brings your errors to their attention. Whereas if you just roll with it and just let it slide, somebody might go, "What did you say?" And then they would just move on. And that was something I learned in the radio communications class I took in high school. And so that's why I wouldn't have necessarily corrected my pronunciation of usurps.
Yeah, and normally,
even though I realized that I had said it wrong, normally I would just roll with it because of that
training you've
that
had.
training, which I agree with.
Yeah. Well, I went through very similar trainings as you did, being that I used to get onto the radio and do live broadcasts and stuff like that for car shows and DJing and things of that nature. And I used to do the same thing that you were talking about there about, just roll with it. But I am being told, do not roll with it. Correct yourself when you make a mistake. Correct yourself. Mistakes are for correcting. Errors cannot be corrected.
Sure they can. An error in thinking can be corrected.
It's a mistake.
Mistakes and errors are one of the same.
They're saying there's a difference between them. What that is, I couldn't tell you. But they say there's a difference. That there's a difference because an error, it's like, it's something that's so horrendous that it can never be repaired. That's how we are taught to look at errors. Mistakes are correctable. It's easier for our minds to grasp.
Error. Noun. A mistake. Seriously.
I know. Isn't that funny? But that's what they tell me, because in our minds, we are trained to think of errors as these things that can't be corrected. That they make us wrong and bad. Where if we make a mistake, it's something where we think and believe it can be corrected. It's something with the way we've been trained. That's what they're saying about
Maybe
it.
it's the way you've been trained, but to me, an error and a mistake is one and the same.
Maybe.
I mean, words are but symbols of symbols twice removed.
Exactly.
So.
Well, think of it this way. It's like this thing with these colleges and these professors trying to marginalize pedophilia. Make it they're teaching the students that it is normal. All men are pedophiles, so it is normal. It's only those who act on it.
That's just a teacher who is projecting his own thoughts.
Well, a lot of these colleges apparently, because Glenn Beck and a bunch of other ones, a bunch of different articles have been coming up about it. But they're teaching this. They're trying to marginalize what it's looked at. And they're changing the meaning of the words. And so they're taking certain words and manipulating us with them.
The Democrats have been doing that for decades.
No shit. But that's why they're using that word error like that. Because it's like when your computer gets an error and crashes, it's like you're going, holy crap. And everything's gone and you're going, it's gone. It's done. It can't be fixed. That's how they're showing it to me. It's like a blue screen crash. When you get a blue screen crash, you're going, oh God, it died. It's a brick. And that's how we look at errors, as this thing that's just completely destructive and it cannot be fixed. Yet if we say, oh, that was a mistake. Here's an eraser, fix it. When we hear the word mistake, we are able to work through it. But if we are told we are in error, we shut down and close down. It's part of the psychology of the way we've been trained.
Not me. With my training in programming, computer programming, the terminology is to have an error. You have an error in your programming while you're debugging.
I guess.
And so errors are corrected until you are able to get a working program.
Okay. Okay. I get it, why you would think like that, why it would make sense for you. See, guys, we're on totally opposite sides of the spectrum. He's super techie, and as he puts it, I'm a doorknob or a bookmark when it comes to technical shit.
I don't ever remember using those terms for you. I remember calling myself a doorknob on my spiritual intuition, or
I didn't say you called me that.
my ability to hear Holy Spirit.
Honey, I never said you called. I never said you called me that. I said like you would say for yourself. That's how I see myself when it comes to technical stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Let's move on.
I think you made an error. No, maybe I made an error. No, it was a mistake, right?
Thank you. Please continue.
Sickness is idolatry because it is the belief that power can be taken from you. Yet this is impossible because you are part of God, who is all power. A sick God must be an idol made in the image of what its maker thinks he is. And that is exactly what the ego does. Perceive in a Son of God a sick God, self-created, self-sufficient, very vicious, and very vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Is this the idol you would worship? Is this the image you would be vigilant to save? Are you really afraid of losing this? Look calmly at the logical conclusion of the ego's thought system and judge whether its offering is really what you want, for this is what it offers you. To obtain this, you are willing to attack the divinity of your brothers and thus lose sight of yours, and you are willing to keep it hidden to protect an idol you think will save you from the dangers for which it stands, but do not exist.
Yeah. Seriously, think about that one. Everything it has you doing is trying to keep things hidden and be in fear that everything's going to be taken from you, that everyone's out to get you. It's like constantly looking over your shoulder, being afraid that someone's going to come up and bop you on top of the head or something. You know, when he came back in with, sickness is idolatry because it is the belief that power can be taken from you. When I had the cancers and all the other diseases, I believed I was powerless, that I had no control over anything, and that I was just a victim. That is what the belief, the idolization of the body and of disease and everything else, that belief in that stuff, that's what it does. It kills you. It creates the diseases within you. When you idolize someone else or something material out there in the world, you create sickness and disease within yourself. It's like when you're judging things to be this or that. Oh, this is how my life should have been. That's when you start creating all those diseases. You start feeling like crap all the time. Your body's hurting and aching. And this is the stuff that the ego has you constantly doing. Pitting yourself against everyone around you. Competing with them. In how you dress, how flashy of a car you drive, what your job title is, how much money you make, what your prospective partner looks like, who they're connected to. That's what the ego's interested in. All about the material, giving to get. And it's that kind of idolization of that kind of crap that puts a wedge between you and your brothers, because you are no longer seeing them for who they really are. Instead, you're just seeing them with a dollar sign in front of them as a stepping stone to get where you want and think you need to be. And as it asks there, are you really afraid of losing the pain and the suffering and the misery that you've been in? Are you really afraid of losing that? Think about that one. They offer you the choice. Key word here, folks, is choice of peace, joy, and happiness. All you have to do is give up everything you've been taught to think and believe to be true. And you will be given peace, joy, and happiness. But you have to give up all of that other stuff. All of it. Can't even keep the tiniest bit of it. You have to give it all up. And that seems to be what most folks can't do. They keep trying to hold on to some little part or aspect and wonder why they're still suffering. Why they're still in pain and agony, in confusing conflict within them. Because they haven't handed over everything. They've tried to keep some part or portion tucked away, hidden. Please continue.
6. There are no idolaters in the kingdom, but there is great appreciation for everything that God created, because of the calm knowledge that each one is part of Him. God's Son knows no idols, but He does know His Father. Health in this world is the counterpart of value in heaven. It is not my merit that I contribute to you, but my love, for you do not value yourself. When you do not value yourself, you become sick. But my value of you can heal you, because the value of God's Son is one. When I said, quote, "My peace I give unto you," I meant it. Peace comes from God through me to you. It is for you, although you may not ask for it. When a brother is sick, it is because he is not asking for peace, and therefore does not know he has it. The acceptance of peace is the denial of illusion, and sickness is an illusion. Yet every son of God has the power to deny illusions anywhere in the kingdom, merely by denying them completely in himself. I can heal you because I know you. I know your value of you, and it is this value that makes you whole. A whole mind is not idolatrous and does not know of conflicting laws. I will heal you merely because I have only one message, and it is true. Your faith in it will make you whole when you have faith in me.
Absolutely. And folks, when I gave over everything and I chose to trust and follow Holy Spirit's guidance in everything, I stopped following conflicting laws. I stopped believing man's laws. I recognized that I was only under one law, and that was God's law. That I was no longer beholden to anyone for any reason. that as a sovereign being, I am the only one that has the right to pick and choose who, what, and when and where I will be when I choose to be. No one else can force that kind of thing on me. That's my choice. I have learned that in sharing the truth that I have been shown, that I extend what I've received. And in so doing, folks, I've been healed completely of all disease, just as he was saying here. When you hand it all over to him, he heals you completely. And if you are believing in sickness and disease, then you will be sick. It's hard to fathom how it is that I got where I was so many years ago, believing blindly in the things that I was. And then I have flashbacks of my childhood and the pain and the suffering I went through, being used as a reinforcement to get me to conform to their dictates. That they used it as a form of control and manipulation, that pain and suffering. And I'm talking about the physical and the mental and the emotional. The withholding of love and other things to get me to conform to their dictates. And that kind of stuff really, when I started looking at that, I started recognizing how it was I started thinking and believing the things I was. That it was to get that kind of pain and suffering to stop. And the only way to get it to stop was to do what they wanted me to do. Even if that was causing me more pain and suffering. If I just did it, they'd stop hurting me in the moment. And that's what I keep getting, is that all of us are taught to do that. To make them stop the pain in the moment. Even though we're going to continue suffering. Because we're doing what doesn't resonate in our own hearts. Everything that is being brought forward to you, folks, is the truth. And it's going to resonate in your heart. When it's true, it resonates. When it brings up conflict, it's because we are holding forth something as being true when it is not. We're holding forth a lie as being the truth. And it's those kinds of things that we start lashing out and acting out in fear, trying to escape from these people that would have us think and believe differently than we've been taught to, than we've chosen to. We start getting angry and vitriolic. Please continue.
8. I do not bring God's message with deception, and you will learn this as you learn that you always receive as much as you accept. You could accept peace now for everyone and offer them perfect freedom from all illusions because you heard His voice. But have no other gods before Him, or you will not hear. God is not jealous of the gods you make, but you are.
Mm-hmm.
You would save them and serve them because you believe that they made you. You think they are your father, because you are projecting onto them the fearful fact that you made them to replace God. Yet when they seem to speak to you, remember that nothing can replace God, and whatever replacements you have attempted are nothing. Very simply, then, you may believe you are afraid of nothingness, but you are really afraid of nothing. And in that awareness, you are healed. You will hear the God you listen to. You made the God of sickness, and by making him, you made yourself able to hear him. Yet you did not create him, because he is not the will of the Father. He is therefore not eternal and will be unmade for you the instant you signify your willingness to accept only the eternal. If God has but one Son, there is but one God. You share reality with him because reality is not divided. To accept other gods before him is to place other images before yourself. You do not realize how much you listen to your gods and how vigilant you are on their behalf. Yet they exist only because you honor them. Place honor where it is due, and peace will be yours. It is your inheritance from your real Father. You cannot make your Father, and the Father you made did not make you. Honor is not due to illusions, for to honor them is to honor nothing. Yet fear is not due them either, for nothing cannot be fearful. You have chosen to fear love because of its perfect harmlessness, and because of this fear, you have been willing to give up your own perfect helpfulness for your own perfect help.
Yes. So, did you get all that?
No, I didn't. I was confused by the whole thing of making your father. I was thinking to myself at the time, did I make my own dad? Did I create him?
No. What it's talking about is the things you place up on pedestals as idols. Those are the gods you worship.
Right.
That's what it's talking about, folks. When you idolize
Money.
a movie star, a car, a house, a book,
A person.
a person,
A guru.
yeah, a teacher. It's that idolization. That is what it's speaking of there, folks. How you will chase after and blindly follow and believe in these things without questioning it. And you will place them as having more value than you yourself. You will find yourself bowing down and degrading yourself for these things because you are seeing them as being more valuable than you. Think about that. Take that in. Give yourself a few moments. Look at all the things in the world that you have idolized. Look at everything around you that you hold forth as having this extreme precious value. It's all material stuff, folks. It's all illusory. It's an illusion. It's fake. It's not real. It's make-believe. The true value are the actual people and creatures, animals, plants that come into your life. Those are the things that are of value, those interactions. Whether it's vitriolic or heartwarming, those interactions are what are of value. Because those interactions are the things that will point you to look within your own heart and mind. And these are the things that he's wanting you to look at. Look at these things you're valuing and idolizing, and recognize that you are valuing the valueless. The last paragraph, please.
Paragraph 11. Only at the altar of God will you find peace. And this altar is in you because God put it there. His voice still calls you to return, and he will be heard when you place no other gods before him. You can give up the god of sickness for your brothers. In fact, you would have to do so if you give him up for yourself. For if you see the god of sickness anywhere, you have accepted him. And if you accept him, you will bow down and worship him, because he was made as God's replacement. He is the belief that you can choose which God is real, although it is clear this has nothing to do with reality. It is equally clear that it has everything to do with reality as you perceive it.
And that is key. That last sentence right there. Although it is clear this has nothing to do with reality, it is equally clear that it has everything to do with reality as you perceive it. Everything comes back to you, folks. It comes back to you and how you are choosing to perceive, to think and believe, how you choose to judge everything you are experiencing in the moment. Everything hinges on you and your choice, your decision. Broken record though I be, the truth is what I speak. There's nothing else to say but the truth. Everything else out there would have you bowing down, worshiping it, groveling before it. Everything but God. God doesn't want you on your knees giving penance. God doesn't want you in fear and terror that he is going to punish you. God does not want you feeling shame and guilt. All of that crap is man-made, and none of it's true. It's all a lie, created to control you, to manipulate you to somebody else's dictates and will. All right, folks, that was Chapter 10, The Idols of Sickness. Section 3, The God of Sickness. All right, let's move on to the lesson of the day. Alex?
Workbook Lesson 103. God, being love, is also happiness. Happiness is an attribute of love. It cannot be apart from it, nor can it be experienced where love is not. Love has no limits, being everywhere, and therefore joy is everywhere as well. Yet can the mind deny that this is so, believing there are gaps in love where sin can enter, bringing pain instead of joy? Let me read that sentence again. I thought it was a question. Yet can the mind deny that this is so? It does sound like a question, doesn't it? Yet can the mind deny that this is so, believing there are gaps in love where sin can enter, bringing pain instead of joy?
It's more like a statement. So, here, let me go ahead and take this from the top to get that cadence in there.
Okay.
Happiness is an attribute of love. It cannot be apart from it, nor can it be experienced where love is not. Love has no limits, being everywhere, and therefore joy is everywhere as well. Yet can the mind deny that this is so, believing there are gaps in love where sin can enter, bringing pain instead of joy?
No, that sentence needed a question mark at the end of it.
It's a statement. I get it. So, yet can the mind deny? It's like saying, and yet can the mind deny that? It's like they leave off that word, and yet. The mind seems to be able to do this thing. It's not a question.
And yet, can the mind deny that this is so? It's still, I don't know, feels like it needs a question mark at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, but I get that it's not a question, it's a statement.
Okay.
So it says, and therefore joy is everywhere as well. Yet can the mind deny that this is so, believing there are gaps in love where sin can enter, bringing pain instead of joy? This strange belief would limit happiness by redefining love as limited and introducing opposition in what has no limit and no opposition.
Opposite.
Oh, thank you. And no opposite. See? Yeah, I get it. It's what it's talking about there is recognizing that it's within your own mind that you are choosing to make up this belief that there is anything other than love. That you are capable of being a sinner and being bad and being wrong. That there are these holes where you are anything but the perfect holy Son of God that you keep being told that you are. By God above. By Jesus. By Holy Spirit. You're being told this constantly by them, that you are perfect, holy, innocent, and pure, and you are love and loved. That there's nothing wrong with you. That you haven't done anything wrong. And that you are beautiful just as you are. And yet everyone else around you has always told you the exact opposite. And it has you believing in your mind that this thing that God has told you, there's holes in it where all the stuff falls through that He's not seeing. He's not understanding that you are a bad person because you did this, or you stole a piece of bubble gum when you were 5 years old. It's that kind of stuff that has you believing these things that aren't true. That God's truth has holes in it. That He's just not seeing how you've been evil over here and bad over there and a sinner over there. And you need to be punished over there. That's just shit that's been handed you by somebody else. All lies. Please continue.
Fear is associated then with love, and its results become the heritage of minds that think what they have made is real. These images with no reality and truth bear witness to the fear of God. Forgetting being love, He must be joy. That didn't make any sense.
I know. Continue the last sentence.
This basic error we will try again to bring to truth today and teach ourselves. God being love is also happiness. To fear Him is to be afraid of joy. Begin your periods of practicing today with this association, which corrects the false belief that God is fear. It also emphasizes happiness belongs to you because of what He is. Allow this one correction to be placed within your mind each waking hour today. Then welcome all the happiness it brings as truth replaces fear, and joy becomes what you expect to take the place of pain. God being love, it will be given you. Bolster this expectation frequently throughout the day, and quiet all your fears with this assurance, kind and wholly true. God being love is also happiness, and it is happiness I seek for today. I cannot fail because I seek the truth.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, recognize, folks, that anytime you're feeling fear, you're fearing God. You're fearing being happy. You're fearing peace. You're fearing joy. That we have been taught to associate anything to do with love with fear. That if we have any kind of attachment, and I think that's what it is we have a fear of attachment, and we look at love as an attachment that weakens us. That if we show any kind of attachment to anyone or anything, it will be taken from us, and we will be left bereft, soul shattered because of it, incomplete. Think about that. We have an association within our minds that to love anyone is to bring on terror and fear, because we hold a belief that if we show attachment to anything in the slightest way, it will be taken from us and we will be destroyed by it. And because of this, we have been taught to deny God and to believe that God is angry, vengeful, and hurtful and is out to kill us. Think about this. Consider it. All right, folks, this was lesson 103. God being love is also happiness. And the correlating chapter text of chapter 10, the idols of sickness, section 3, the God of sickness. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And my name is Alex Reyenga.
Please do the work, folks. Only you can do this work. Recognize you're the one that has the power and you're making the choices and decisions here. Everything comes back to you. It all hinges on you. You are the one with the power. You are the one that's in control. Be the light you are meant to be. Be the light we know you to be. Please choose to be the light, my brothers. You are loved. We love you. Have a blessed day.